Hello, I'm SP, and welcome to my editing walkthrough YouTube channel. I am also streaming this live on Twitch, so if you happen to be there, give a comment in the chat and let me know you're there. And if you have a question, let me know. And if you're viewing this on YouTube later, leave a comment down below with a time code, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can on whatever question you might have. But what I'm doing here is I'm going through a walkthrough of how I edit Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. And this is episode number 261. It is on the Punisher episode 5 of season 1. So please, if you don't want to be spoiled, you don't want to listen to this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the video edit as how I do it through Vegas Movie Studio 15.0. And then when I'm finished with that, I will go back over into Audacity to finish out the audio edit. It's just because of the way I do it. Hopefully what will happen is you will only have to do one or the other. Now, this is a multi-track edit, and in my previous videos, I've gone through the sidebar over here and the effects that is laid in on each channel. Now, Movie Studio is a non-destructive editor, so that means that I can go back and do whatever I want to with the tracks once I am all the way through. In Audacity, however, once I do something, once I've applied an effect to a track, it's there, it's stuck, I can't go back. Now, as you can see in my edit here, so far we're about 9 minutes in or something, 8:30 in. So far in my edit, you will see that I've actually taken chunks out of tracks. That is gone. I can't go back. If I wanted to keep those back in, what I would do, and I'll just dial in here on this piece of Lauren's track, what I would do is I would grab that little hockey puck looking thing. Some call it a rest. If you're into reading music, it's a rest note, a full rest note, because it's on the bottom, so it's holding water instead of on top where it's spilling water out. And you just grab it and you pull it down, and that will mute that part of the track. When I take stuff out, I don't want it in there at all, so I just take it out. And sometimes it's a lot easier than cutting both sides of the track and then coming in and doing that. If I cut one side of the track, then cut the other side of the track with this trim function down here, the trim start or trim end, and it just goes away. So that is destructive editing on my part with Vegas Movie Studio, but on the whole, it's non-destructive, and Audacity is destructive because every single thing you do in Audacity, you cannot go back. So, well, you can undo, but if you stop, you save the file, you won't be getting that back. So anyway, it's been a couple weeks since I've done this, so I got to get back in the groove of editing. I have a lot going on at home, so my apologies, but I will be continuing these as I edit. And if you do have a question, please let me know. If you want to reach out to me later, I am on Twitter at Stargate Pioneer, and you can catch me on my email at stargatepioneer@gonnageek.com. And Gonna Geek is spelled GONNAGEEK, just like you see it up here on the video. Okay, here we go.
Warehouse, but Michael was a staff writer for 19 of episodes of Warehouse 13, has written 1 episode of Into the Badlands, 2 of Containment, and this episode of The Punisher. And remember, this is based on the Marvel Comics by Jerry Conway, John Romita Sr., and Ross Andru.
Gunner is the title of this episode, and since Haley's not here, I'm just going to take a stab at this. Gunner, you could claim it's the Punisher, so he's got a lot of guns and he likes to, shoot guns and whatever. I'm just going to go to the heart of it. We're talking about one of Frank's teammates in the Cerberus operation by the name of Gunner, and this episode was all about Gunner.
Interestingly, I just wanted to say, maybe it was.
And this episode of The Punisher. And remember, this is based on the Marvel Comics by.
And this episode was all about Gunner.
Interestingly, I just wanted to say.
Okay, a little breath sound there.
Interestingly.
I'm going to take that out. Now, breathing as a whole is okay, unless it's excessive. And that was a bit of a deep breath, right? And when this goes to audio later on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a truncate silence. So I'm not sure how that's going to work in this particular thing, because all about Gunner. Yeah, because she's basically cutting. You just don't see it here because I've already taken care of it. She's already, or I continue to talk and then she overtalks me or interrupts me. That's a way to say it here in the track. And I've already taken that out. So it's not a very natural progression. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that in the edit, but normally what would happen is that would be truncated to 0.85 seconds. That's the tempo in which I do. And you'll see that later if you stick around for the audio edit. It's all about Gunner.
Interestingly, I just wanted to say, maybe it was an episode or so ago when someone was like, what kind of name is Gunner? It's actually from an Old Norse name, Gunner.
Not actually so that's an or crutch word that I can take out. And that's exactly what I'm doing, using those trim functions.
It's actually from an Old Norse.
Oh, take out enough.
Actually from an Old Norse name, Gunner. And it means like sort of brave warrior, just warrior. Means like.
Means not like, not sort of, means brave warrior. Now the problem of taking that out here is you'll if you're watching the video up on the top right hand side, you will see Lauren's mouth move, but no words are coming out.
Gunner, and it means brave warrior, just warrior. And
so that's the problem with taking that stuff out now. And sometimes you can take this out, sometimes you can't. Sometimes I have to wait for the audio edit. Yeah, and I'll have to do that because I can't get a good. You see, the D is right here. The D is that part of it. So,
and
if I take away anything to the right, there'll still be a little bit left in there. We'll see if it effectively faded out there.
And
no, it didn't. So the other option is take out a little bit of the D. See what that sounds like. Could be too short of a D.
And it's kind of an older name.
That seemed to work this time. Sometimes that doesn't. Sometimes you got to leave it in. Sometimes you cannot take out crutch words.
Brave warrior, just warrior. And it's kind of an older name. And there's variants of it. Gunther, Gunnario.
An on its own, that's easy to take out because her mouth doesn't move that much.
Gunther. Gunnario is an Italian version of it. It's a really popular name. So, like, one of you remember.
So the other thing here is you saw coming into that, the video kind of stuttered a little bit. Sometimes it's because Vegas Music Studio needs time to catch up, but in this particular case, it's because Lauren's connection to me was not so great. Lauren's on I believe, a 720p camera instead of a 1080, and her internet connection isn't all that great. So it stutters in and out with Hangouts on Air. It would stutter in and out even on Skype if we did that. And if I get better internet at some point in time, I will be doing Skype and NDI, and everybody will be on their own individual camera as far as XSplit goes, or on OBS Studio, so I could bring people in and out in different scenes. It's actually a great capability. It's just really bogging down if you get beyond 2 people coming in. We've noticed that this point in time, which is December 2nd, 2018, you still have issues if you bring in 3 people on NDI. So we try not to do more than 2. So if I had Lauren and Haley and Michelle on, I don't know if I'd be able to actually do the multi-scene work that we do on Better Podcasting and Get a Geek. Steven has a heck of a time on Get a Geek, at least with Better Podcasting. It's only him and me. But on Get a Geek, we add guests like we did this past week, and it gets really sporty really quick.
It's kind of an older name. And there's variants of it. Gunther, Gunther. Gonario is an Italian version of it. It's a really popular name. So one of you remember that band from the 80s, Nelson? They had the long blonde hair.
Yes, I
One of
remember
them was
Nelson.
named Gunner.
Did not know. So this is a case where I keep on talking and she talks over me, and the only thing that's relevant there is me saying yes.
Hair.
Yeah.
One of them was named Gunner.
And we'll take out the little knock that she did on her desk.
Was named Gunner.
Did not know that. Although this might be the gunner / Gunther that was in charge of the security at Star Labs that Crimson Comet used to talk about on the Gonna Geek Network. Gonna Geek Network. Yep. That bong is brought to you by Lauren. All right, and then this is a hosting technique. You wait for a long time for somebody to pop in. In this case, it was going down here like 3.5 seconds. So I should have waited a couple more seconds. The general rule of thumb is like 5 or 10 seconds. You just wait until somebody starts in again. And in this case, I got anxious and wanted to move the conversation along. I don't remember what I said, but I said something here, and Lauren said something at the same time. So we'll see how we're going to deconflict this. Okay, I guess that's lost on everybody.
I haven't watched The Flash in so long.
All right, take that part out. Okay, I guess that's lost on everybody.
I haven't watched The Flash in so long.
Let's see what that sounds like. Okay, I guess that's lost on everybody.
I haven't watched.
Oop. Lost on everybody.
I haven't watched.
I guess that's lost on everybody.
I haven't watched The Flash in so long.
Yep, that's what it's going to be. I've deconflicted it as much as I can. So one of the things as a listener that you don't want to listen to is a bunch of people arguing or talking over each other. It's called overspeak on the podcast. And I try to minimize that, but at the same time, I acknowledge that some people are just going to talk at the same time, especially if you're laughing or doing something like that. So I definitely try to leave that in when possible. But in this particular case, I try to take it out as much as possible too for the audio listener. And I've noticed that my audio listeners far outweigh my video listeners, so I cater to them, and that leaves the video a little bit lacking. Like if I was just doing a video here, there's a lot of stuff that I wouldn't do, and I would do. Like I would do multi-camera, and I would do so I could switch back and forth between shots, and that makes for an easy cut right there. Like right here, I could have cut it, you know, with 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds, something like that, and it wouldn't have to have been that long of a pause. But I don't have multi-angles. I just have mine, and I'm not doing any switching because I let YouTube do that automatically. Producing live video, if you're hosting, if you're speaking, presenting, whatever you want to call it, and you're doing the switching, it gets to be a bit much. So I am not great at it. Steven is. He's phenomenal over on Better Podcasting and on Gonna Geek. So he gets to do all that sort of stuff. Me, not so much. I have heard of people that come on and actually do the video producing from behind the scenes. Like they're an extra add to the call, but they're actually controlling everything from wherever they're doing it. And it turns out to be great because that's all they're doing is they're producing. We don't have that sort of individual on any of our shows. Although, let me think of that. Papa X, actually. Papa X Cast on the Get a Geek Network. They do phenomenal video show, and I'm trying to remember if Joe, who's the main host on there, if he does the switching or if they offload the switching to somebody else. I don't know. I'll have to ask him that because it's been a while since I've asked about their video production. Gunther, that was in charge of the security at Star Labs that Crimson Comet used to talk about on the Gonna Geek Network. Okay, I guess that's lost on everybody.
I haven't watched The Flash in so long.
Well, the key was there was no security to Star Labs, and so they had this guy that was called Gunther, who was in charge of security and feeding the prisoners that were in the cells in there. But
there's also on Adventure Time, there's all of the penguins are named Gunther.
I'm going to leave this over speaking because it's nothing of value. It's nothing of importance, and it's just a transition from one speaker to the next. That were in the cells in there. But
there's also on.
I think I'm going to take out the butt.
There's all
that was called Gunther, who was in charge of security and feeding the prisoners that were in the cells in there.
There's also on Adventure Time, there's all of the penguins are named Gunther.
Oh.
And they are all possibly evil.
Evil penguins. Oh.
And they are all possibly evil.
I just want to point out that
all of the penguins are named Gunther.
Oh.
And they are all possibly evil.
I just want to point out that if your name is if your character in the show and your name is the title of one of the episodes, you're probably not going to make it through the episode, especially in the Punisher series. If you're being highlighted by the name of the title, you're probably not going to be around as a character by the end. If you're being highlighted by the name of the title, you're probably. That's what I thought. I thought that was one over
here. All of the penguins are named Gunther.
Oh.
And they are all possibly evil.
That was a good call. I thought I recognized the desk bang. I did not go over to the volume meter over here, or the gain meter, output meter, whatever you want to call it, and see. I should have, and I definitely heard it throughout when I was talking, so I'm just taking those out in the background. Just desk bangs. Whoops. Desk bangs by Lauren. Oh.
And they are all possibly evil.
I just want to point out that if your name is if your character in the show and your name is the title of one of the episodes, you're probably not going to make it through the episode, especially in the Punisher series. If you're being highlighted by the name of the title, you're probably not going to be around as a character by the end of the episode. So, little spoiler alert for future episodes. Let's talk about Frank Castle, Michelle. He has gone through quite a bit in this episode, but he starts with following up on something that he was doing for the Liebermans, and it seemed like he was just doing it to poke at Micro, but I think he was just following up because Micro told him to take care of it.
Yeah, he goes back to the Liebermans to fix the headlight in the car, and he's bonding with Sarah a little bit more, and the older daughter seems to like Frank. They had
Lauren.
He's bonding with Sarah a little bit more, and the older.
Yeah. Maybe that was.
He's bonding with Sarah a little bit more, and the older.
That is Lauren. Make sure we don't hear anything because Micro told him to take care of it.
Yeah, he goes back to the Liebermans to fix the headlight in the car, and he's bonding with Sarah a little bit more, and the older daughter seems to like Frank. They had that moment with fixing the sink and such. So she seems to, I don't know, respect him somehow. And she's the one that wants.
Yep, take care of that crutch word. No big deal. Whoops, wrong one. Down here on her track.
Somehow. And she's the one that wants to invite him to dinner. And her mom actually does. And we end up seeing that Frank gets distracted, so he doesn't end up going to dinner at the Liebermans.
We'll talk about that a little bit later. I need to point out, because I've worked on headlights before, and you see the bumper cover that's down in some cars. In order to change the light bulb, you need to do something ridiculous like that. This is changing out the full headlight, and the bumper guard comes down. That's not an easy task. And all those little clips that go into the front rubber bumper thing, they often break and everything. So for him to into the front rubber. Wow. Here's a cat hissing noise right there. Go into the front. If you don't believe me, we're going to go solo on it. Sure sounds like a cat hissing. Maybe not. Sure sounded like it. Solo off. All those little clips that go into the front. Oh, there's one here. Down. That's not an easy task. And go into the front rubber bumper thing. They often break and everything. So for him to be able to do that and fix it and actually put it back together in one piece, I'm assuming we didn't see the van afterwards, but I'm assuming it was all one piece. My hat is off to the mechanic skills of Frank Castle, because that is not simple to do. I mean, it's simple, but it's not simple to do and not break anything. So I mean, it's simple, but it's not simple to do and not break anything. So
yeah, product placement Honda there. And I know that one of the big deals
break anything. So yeah. Take the so out. The crutch word doesn't need to be there. And not break anything.
Yeah, product placement Honda there. And I know that one of the big deals about Honda is that, well, it's supposed to be like, oh, everything's kind of modular, everything can be replaced. But one of the things, I'm not sure what model that was.
It had to have been like I'm thinking a 2003, 2004-ish model.
But if it was like the
reason I know that, by the way, is yeah, you used to own one. 4-ish model.
But if it was like an Accord or whatever it was, but
oh, it was a Honda Odyssey minivan.
Odyssey. Okay. I'm not sure how it is with those, but I know that whenever I take my car in, it's kind of a big deal. Like, oh, okay, well, here's something. I'm like, well, this should be a simple fix. I'm like, no, we're going to have to take apart like everything. And I'm like, and they're like, well, it's because of the way that Honda builds its cars. It's built because of the way that they're built sort of to crumble because it's, hey, safety, but they're built to crumble. So you sort of have to take apart, I guess, everything.
Well, not to mention minivans are not designed for easy access anywhere. I mean, the engine compartment is kind of big and it's up front, but then the seating compartment is right there on top of it. So it's a pain in the butt to work on anything in the engine compartment.
Yeah, again, I am not a mechanic. I'm a biology person. I'm not a mechanical person. But I have been told this by
save. I haven't done that enough. Save often, save early.
Person. But person. But I have
There we go. Just trying to get to 15 minutes and then I'll cut this video off.
But I have been told this by person. But I have been told this by many people who have kind of, futzed around on my car that, yeah, Hondas are fiddly.
It's kind of funny because Leo is saying, hey, Mom, we need to invite him over. And of course, she's trying to actually hook her mom, Sarah, up with, what's his fake name here? It's not Pete, is it? It is Pete? Okay.
It's Pete.
So she's trying to hook up Pete with Leo, and we know that David is still in the picture, and we know that Frank's not going to move on Sarah or anything like that, but Leo doesn't know that. So she's arguing back and forth with Sarah, and then all of a sudden Frank shows up, and Sarah's like, oh yeah, hey, we'd like to have you over. So she's arguing back and forth with Sarah, and then all of a sudden Frank shows up, and Sarah's like, oh yeah, hey, we'd like to have you over. So kind of solved that argument right there.
So I don't know. So I don't know how many of y'all listen to a podcast called My Favorite Murder, which I know seems out of the blue for this discussion,
Not
but
me.
there's this phenomenon where one of the reasons that a lot of women get injured and killed is because we're sort of socialized to not raise a fuss and to be polite and ignore our gut feelings to avoid causing a fuss. And if you look at how a bunch of serial killers in the past have, or now even, have been able to get women into situations that they shouldn't have been, a lot of it is the whole, you know, don't cause a scene, don't cause a scene.
You know, is another crutch word that I like to take out if it's on its own. This one definitely is.
Is the whole don't cause a scene, don't cause a scene. And that podcast, one of their sayings is, F politeness. Because if something feels bad to you, cause a scene. And what she's doing here is, now, it's impolite to not cause a scene. She has a weird feeling. I'm not saying, well, actually, yes, Frank Castle is technically a serial killer. More of a vigilante, but technically a serial killer. More of a vigilante, but technically he is a serial killer. So yeah, she is technically inviting a serial killer into her home for dinner. You guys, if you have a bad feeling about somebody, don't invite them home for dinner.
Good advice by Lauren. Okay, I'm going to stop this video right now and check on dinner. I might be back soon. I might be back in about an hour, but I will be back watching this later on YouTube. It's instantaneous to go to the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, I'm SP. I'm from the GonnaGeek.com network. These are my editing walkthroughs using Vegas Movie Studio 15.0 and Audacity to edit a podcast. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Put a comment down below and give me a time code on what you're talking about, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You can also go to my Twitter account at Stargate Pioneer or on my email, stargatepioneer@gonnageek.com. Also, another great place that you could probably ask me a question is on the Gonna Geek Discord channel. That's gonnageek.com/Discord, and I am always available there. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.